And Julia, a very good evening to you from our side. So let's just talk about Russia, Russia's interest in Africa. If you can bring us up to speed. I mean, you know, we haven't really heard or seen much over the past couple of years of what Russia's interest in Africa really is.
Well, that's right. Russia has been largely absent from the African continent for the last couple of decades, slowly building up something of a presence and greater investment over the last few years as it tries to catch up with other interested parties such as the US, the EU and, of course, China. But Russia has a number of interests in the continent, not least the natural resources there, lots of military cooperation, lots of places to send its arms. The African continent makes up most of Russia's arms deals. A huge chunk of them go there. And it does see certainly a lot of other economic opportunities as well, from agriculture to industrialization. So Russia is certainly looking to grow its role in Africa politically and economically. We heard from Russian President Vladimir Putin today speaking at the plenary session of the first ever Russia-Africa summit. He said that he wants to double trade with the African continent in the next 5 years. Right now it stands at around $20 billion US, and he wants to see that double.
Now, specifically about South Africa, Julia, I mean, we know that relations between South Africa and Russia established back in 1992. What have been the highlights of this relationship of the past couple of decades?
Well, Russia and South Africa have been doing growing trade. South Africa accounts for about $1 billion US of that 20 billion I mentioned between Russia and Africa. So it is a significant chunk, but it's certainly something that the two parties would like to see grow. We heard President Vladimir Putin meeting with President Ramaphosa today. The two held a bilateral summit where they also pledged to increase economic cooperation. That's really been a theme here that we've been hearing from the Russian president. He says that there is trade with Africa, but not enough, and he wants to see it increase with a number of parties, not least South Africa. South Africa also offers Russia a lot of its produce because, of course, since 2014, when Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine, there have been sanctions imposed on Russia, and Russia has reiterated with an import ban. So it stopped importing a number of goods, mostly produce, and that's something that South Africa has really stepped up in order to make up for that shortfall.
Now, we also know this summit, Julia, meant to contribute towards the overall objective of addressing the aspirations of African countries as encapsulated in Agenda 2063. What do we know about what Agenda 2063 says about the aspirations of African countries?
Well, yes, a number of African leaders are here today. In fact, a number in their dozens. It's incredible how many of the African leaders have made the trip to Sochi. I think it's a really big demonstration of how much clout Russia has and how much of an attractive partner Russia is for a number of African countries, because we have seen leaders including the Egyptian president, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the Zimbabwean president, Mnangagwa. They have both been attending, as well as many, many other big names. And so I think that's quite a clear indication of how much African countries see Russia as a partner. What role Russia will play in future investment and in future development of the continent remains to be seen. Russia would certainly like to play a bigger role, although it is somewhat held back by its lack of ability to finance in the numbers that we have been seeing from China and other parts of the world.
All right, thanks very much for that, Julia, and we'll continue to keep an eye. It is a two-day summit. President Cyril Ramaphosa leading our delegation there. It's the first Russia-Africa summit being held in the Russian city of Sochi this week.